If I may call the meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome to the second meeting of our Presidential Search Committee. I'd like to call this meeting to order. And as a reminder, this meeting is governed by Florida Sunshine Laws, is open to the public and media, and is being shared live at UCF's Presidential Search website. So with that, Laura Stiliano, would you please ensure a quorum?
Thank you. Search Committee, Search Chairman David Walsh.
Present.
Search Vice Chair Beverly C.
Here.
Miss Christina Barreto.
Here.
Miss Sarah Bernard.
Present.
Dr. Gordon Chavez.
Present.
Dr. Manoj Chopra.
Present.
Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Here by telephone.
The Honorable Sidney Kitson.
Here.
Mr. Michael Manglardi.
Here.
Mr. Ken Robinson. The Honorable Conrad Santiago.
Here.
The Honorable Rick Walsh.
Here.
Dr. Linda Walters.
Here.
Dr. Felicia Williams.
Present.
Trustee William Yergin.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Laura. Anyone who didn't notice, we have cake has been arranged, I think partly in commemoration of a wonderful day at the university. We're still in the warm afterglow of just a fantastic event Saturday. I think you all know we're now in the Peach Bowl, January 2nd. 1st? Monday, though, right? Monday the 1st. January 1st. That's right.
Monday.
And we'll be playing unbelievably Auburn. We're praying that Dr. Holstenbeck's rooting for the right team. We think he will be, but we may take a vote on that, but just to make sure. But what a great day Saturday was, and what a privilege to be here and in some way associated with this great university. Okay, in any event, timing of our deliberations today is quite perfect. 26 years ago today, December 4th, 1991, Dr. Hitt was selected as the university's 4th president. So that's 26 years ago on this day. So as we take our next step into finding our 5th president, I thought you'd all enjoy that historic connection. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of the meeting we had a week and a half ago. Those were distributed about a week ago, so I think everyone's had a
Move to
fair
approve.
chance to look at them. Second. Second? We'll take a vote. Aye, in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Okay, with that, the minutes are approved. Now, as you know, one of the most important things we're going to do today is meet our search firm. Chairman Marchena was provided by us 3 recommendations submitted to him at our last meeting. He rather rapidly, by Sunday evening following the meeting, had selected Parker Executive Search as the firm who will be entrusted with the support of this team and coaching and counseling us through and doing most of the heavy lifting of the promotional work to identify candidates for us and to process. Parker has a prominent national reputation for conducting successful and inclusive searches, including presidential or chancellor searches at the University of Illinois, University of Oregon, University of Iowa, University of Tennessee, Florida Atlantic, among many others. Parker has a deep knowledge of UCF and its culture, and that's quite important as they storm the country on our behalf looking for talented candidates that are good fits for our culture here at UCF. I'd like to introduce Lori Wilder. Lori's the president of Parker, came to us today via Atlanta. She'll make some remarks about Parker, about their collaborative efforts with us. She's been with the firm 17 years, has a long history of experience across AAU public universities, regional and state schools, as well as private liberal arts institutions. She graduated with honors from the University of Georgia. We won't be holding that against her, especially now that we're not playing Georgia in the Peach Bowl, but instead Auburn.
We expect her to buy tickets because she's in Atlanta, right?
Of course. Second on that? She has a BS in business administration with an emphasis on management from Georgia. She's also joined today by Portia Williams. Portia, also with Parker, is Vice President of Higher Education in the firm. She has significant experience recruiting world-class leaders among colleges and universities across the country and has successfully completed more than 200 searches. She's graduated as well from the University of Georgia with a bachelor's degree in speech communications. And no one should joke about how far they've come despite the lack of a formal education. So that's, I'm only in jest. I'm in jest. In jest. I'm kidding. We've spent some time together today, and let me tell you, we're in very good hands with these two experts. They're going to share with us what to expect, next steps, timing, and the current and active presidential search market, which is active, competitive, and robust as we speak. We're going to hear there are a number of searches going on, so timing has to be crisp, is something we've known right through. We are in a competitive market, and I think we're going to hear a lot about that. So with that, Laura and Portia, excuse my poor humor. The floor is yours.
We're in a good mood today. We won on Saturday, so we're feeling pretty good about that as well. So we're good. Well, I very much appreciate the opportunity to be here today, and I know this is one of the most important things that you all will ever do as it relates to this university, and this is a huge task. And so we're honored to have the opportunity to help facilitate this process for you. And so what we'd like to do today is talk a little bit about who we are, talk a little bit about the market itself in presidential searches, and then talk about process. And we'd be more than happy to answer any questions as we go. Very low maintenance, so if you have a question, just shout it out and we'll absolutely try to answer those as well. So Parker Executive Search, we're based in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have 4 core practice areas. We have a higher education practice where we represent universities and colleges around the globe in their searches for academic leadership. We have a health sciences practice where we represent medical schools and health sciences institutions in their searches for leaders. We have a sports practice where we represent intercollegiate athletic and conferences as well as professional and amateur sports in those searches. And then we have a corporate practice. We're really a generalist based in the Southeast. But about 75% of what we do on our firm on a given day is done on a college or university campus. And so I think it's important for you all to know that this is what we do every day. And it's important for us as it relates to recruiting candidates that we understand the world of what's happening in higher education to the best of our abilities. We are absolutely not experts at anything that you all do on a day-to-day basis, but we'll try to share with you as much information as we can about this process and about what happens in these searches. It's been a long time since you've had the opportunity to do a presidential search, and the times that we're in can be very challenging as it relates to presidential searches. Portia is, again, a vice president of our higher education practice. We will be the 2 individuals that will be with you at all times. We'll be out aggressively recruiting in the marketplace. We think it is very important for both the president and the vice president to engage in presidential searches because they are often the most difficult searches that we do on a given day. They are very complex in nature, as you can imagine, and so we think it's important that the 2 of us are here with you to answer all of your questions that you might have and to aggressively go into that market. Let me just tell you about our role in this process. Our job here is to aggressively recruit candidates, facilitate, and advise. So what's important for you all to know is the firm from Atlanta is not here to select your next president. We have no votes in this process. And so what we're going to do at every turn is to provide you options as to this is how the search is going. Here are the candidates that we're aggressively recruiting. We are known in the industry for tenacious recruiting, and that's the hard part of this search, quite frankly, is to go out and find those wonderful people that are really ready to be your next president. Oftentimes, the hardest part is looking for chemistry, style, and fit, and understanding that. And we are really going to lean on you as a committee to help us in that process. So we are not the firm that says, now we've had this meeting, you all go away, we'll come back later. That is not how we want to work. We really want to work in partnership partnership with you, again, to really recruit the best candidates and have a process that really is seamless and transparent and open. And so that's an important part for us and an important distinction for us. One of the things I wanted to start with before we kind of talk about process and where do we go from here and how do we get to the end is to really talk about the climate today in higher education for presidential searches. And because I think that'll help you to kind of understand what we're dealing with and what you all as the search committee are going to be dealing with as we go through this process. You have had a wonderful length of time of a president. It is abnormal today. So as you all know, that is a run rate that we are not seeing on other campuses today. An average tenure for a president really is somewhere below 5 years now. And so it is a constant churn of presidential leadership. And so that has created a dynamic in the market that makes it very tough to recruit, right? Because you're constantly having new presidential searches. The pool itself can be relatively shallow from that perspective. And so you have those concerns as it relates to search processes. The pool itself, and I will encourage you in all of our meetings to be very open as you consider a pool of candidates. We're seeing national trends where candidates are coming from various parts of a university campus. So they may be coming from the provost position, they may be coming from other vice president positions. You're seeing universities across the country that will look at vice presidents of research and economic development. They could be looking at deans of very large professional schools that have a very external bent to them, depending on what you're looking for in candidates. And so I'm always going to tell you to see more than less candidates because of the market that we're in, and to really be open to what that candidate pool will look like. This is an open national search, and I think it should maintain that as you go through this process, and that's important. One of the other things that we're seeing in the marketplace with presidential searches is they have become much more complex, the presidency itself. It's very external. It is 24/7 every day of the week. It is a job that is constant pressure. There's a lot of different constituency groups from external to on campus. So there's all these different components, and quite frankly, we see more people now than we maybe did 15 years ago that said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a president from that perspective. That may have been my career trajectory, but not today. So you're seeing some people opt out from that perspective. You are also in a market right now where candidates are risk averse, because oftentimes as candidates are looking at other opportunities, they are actively in recruiting mode for great faculty members on their campus, and they are concerned about what will their reputation be if they are not selected for that presidency, or that they're highly engaged in fundraising. So they have a $5 million ask out, and then they're worried about what is that going to mean to my current institution as well. So there's these dynamics that they're working in. If you read the Chronicle, you see some of those issues happening with presidents across the country as well that are involved in a search, or a leader on a campus is involved in a search and then gets a lot of pushback from their own campus. So that's created, again, a pool that's much shallower than we've seen in the past. And so that's something that you all will have to consider as we go through this process as well. How do we create and recruit the best candidates in a time that's very difficult? You obviously are in Florida. The Sunshine Laws, we are going to do everything we can to respect the spirit and the letter of that law, but it will create some dynamics where candidates will not be able to be considered. They will very quickly say to us that they're not interested in the opportunity, although they think it's a phenomenal one, because they can't justify it on their own campus. They can't jeopardize the relationships that they have today on the chance that they may not get the search. And so I think that is an important piece from that perspective to know. But that does not mean you can't have outstanding candidates. We feel very confident, or we wouldn't have accepted this search, that you have a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous position to sell, and you'll be able to recruit great candidates. But please do know that there will be some of that. One of the things I will tell you as committee members is that candidates now in presidential searches tend to wait until the very last moment to submit their materials. So don't be surprised by that in your search as well. That is a national trend, to wait until that very last moment. It's not that they don't trust you, they don't know you. And in this case, their name would be instantly public, and so then they would wait until that very last moment. And so we're seeing those types of trends. And what we've tried to do is to look at the market itself and say, how do you create a process and how do you recruit candidates to ensure that you have the strongest, most diverse pool of candidates that you can? And we do that through relationships, and we do that by understanding who you are and spending time with you, listening to what are the opportunities and challenges that you as a committee and a campus see going forward, and then really recruiting candidates that really have not only the domain knowledge to do the job, right? So a great CV and great skill sets, but also the opportunity to have a fit here, because I think that's what's absolutely important, is it's the right person at the right place at the right time. Timing is everything in presidential searches. And so I think that's a very important part, and we'll be very proactive at that. We're kind of known as the firm that'll get on an airplane and go call and sit in someone's office and say, this is why you should consider this opportunity because of these outstanding things that are happening. And most often it's the outstanding people that are there as well. And I think you all have that greatly. So you have a lot to sell, and I think that's outstanding. There will be a number of searches going on at the exact same time you are. Because of that tenure going down, that means there's more searches that are happening at any given time. And so what I would say to you is candidates have told us over the last several years that one of the most important things to them is the process and the speed of that process, right? So they are looking for searches where there's massive levels of communication, so they know exactly when everything will kind of happen, and that those searches are done in a very distinctive way, a way that really creates the best pool of candidates, but also doesn't have to take a very, very long time. And as you know, years ago, presidential searches would take 6 months to a year to conduct, and candidates just are not okay with that anymore. So we try to create processes where we can move a little faster in the market to ensure you get the best candidates from that perspective. Oftentimes, candidates may be interested in more than one search at a time. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not more interested in yours than another, but sometimes bird in hand comes into play, and you have to be very aggressive as it relates to that timing and to discuss that timing with candidates. And so that's one of the things that we've learned in the market is how do you do a process faster without jeopardizing the quality of the pool, without jeopardizing the diversity of the pool, and also without jeopardizing the background work that you do to ensure that the candidates are who they say they are. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well when we start talking about process. So those are some of the things that we're finding in the market today for presidential searches. And as we go through this search process, we'll discuss exactly what the market is saying as we get to learn that as we go out into the market. So I want to stop there for just a moment before we specifically talk about your search and your process and answer any questions that you might have about where we are right now in the market.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. So it's a shallow pool already. Knowing the size of UCF and the fact that whoever we select is going to have the ability to handle multiple silos, almost like a major corporation, does that even shrink this pool even further?
It does, because the complexity and the scope and scale of what you have is grand. And so as you look at institutions across the country, there's wonderful institutions, but their scale is different than your scale, right, from that perspective. Now, that does not mean that they can't ratchet themselves up from that perspective. I'll be very honest with you, in presidential searches in the state of Florida, you rarely see other presidential candidates, right, because they're currently engaged in the president opportunity. And so there's going to be a scale question almost regardless from that perspective. You just could be institutional scale, it could be position scale. I think, though, that as you look at what you have to offer, I think that opens up the pool a little bit because that scale will entice people. Because of the things that you're doing here will entice people that maybe won't look at another institution that's a little more static.
But will you be able to find people with that kind of experience?
We will. There will be a scale up for many candidates, and that could be because, again, that they're sitting in a VP level position today and they've got to ratchet themselves up to a presidential level. It could be that they are sitting at an institution that maybe doesn't have as large of a profile, so they're going to step up from that experience. But no, I think that we're going to be in a position to really find great quality candidates that meet the needs of what you have today.
Along those lines, I think our laws, you mentioned the sunshine laws in the state of Florida, present some additional challenges. How many other states are there similar that have such a broad sunshine law, if you will, as the state of Florida, and does that present present significant challenges, or?
It presents significant challenges. I won't sugarcoat that from that perspective. It does present those challenges. One of the things that really adds to so there's many states that have open records rules as it relates to when candidates submit their materials. Your open meetings rules also can be to candidates very intimidating from that moment. So oftentimes in presidential searches, you're able to protect the identity of that first round of candidates. So that 8 to 10 candidates, you're able to protect that. And they're okay with that, right? So they're okay with coming in front of a committee in front of 8 to 10 people, and if they're not selected, their name won't be set. Their name will never see the light of day. That concerns them. It concerns them that there may be people in the back of the room while they're interviewing and answering those questions, and everything is being said there. So is it a challenge? It is absolutely a challenge. There are those individuals who I talk to all the time that say, I'm not going to get involved in a search in the state of Florida. I just can't risk my relationships that I have with my faculty. Right? I just cannot risk those relationships. And so that's a reality from that perspective. We hope to be able to work through a process that really does try to help you as it relates to, we don't have a timeline today established. Our hope is that obviously in early part of 2018, we'll be in a really good position and we'll have great candidates from that perspective. And we'll work with this committee as we get a little closer towards that and once we see what that market looks like. I do think you can find great candidates. There's still those great candidates, but will you lose some? Absolutely. But quite frankly, you'll lose some in every search, no matter what the rules are from that perspective. Every institution has a little nuance that individuals may not have an interest in.
Will most of the best candidates reach out to you, or will you need to go to them?
Yeah, they most likely will not reach out to us. It will be a very proactive approach to that. Now obviously, and I know you're going to talk about approval of a marketing plan later in this meeting, and those are all going to be very important pieces to this puzzle, right, from an announcement standpoint. Let me just talk a little bit about how we recruit candidates, and that's a little bit in the process piece of this as well. It's really a multi-pronged approach to recruiting, and the best candidates are very happy where they are today. They're gainfully employed. Their institutions or organizations do not want to lose them. And they didn't wake up this morning thinking this is the search for me, right? Because they've got their head down doing their own work. And so we've got to go to them. And we'll do that in various ways. Obviously, we'll advertise the position. That's a little more of a reactive approach. We believe in a proactive approach. We're going to ask your campus to actively engage in the nomination and recruitment process. That is critically important for the individuals that live here, that breathe this every day, to be in the process of making recommendations and nominations. We do not stand here and tell you we know everyone in the country, and we would not be telling the truth if we did. So we really want that. You often will see faculty members will give outstanding nominations. They'll reach out to other institutions and friends they have in national associations and say, who do you know on your campus that's outstanding? And they'll submit that to us. Everyone that's nominated and recommended will absolutely be contacted. So that is one of the things that is important to us, that this is completely transparent, that if a name is given to us, we'll go out there. And then what we'll do is we'll say, okay, let's look at best in class. Let's look at your benchmark institutions, your aspirational institutions. Let's look at size and scale of institutions. And then let's go find those individuals who may be in a position today to consider this opportunity. And again, that could be provost, that could be presidents, that could be deans, that could be other VPs on campus. It could be a little bit of everybody. And then we go out directly to them and we contact them, we call them, we talk about the opportunity. We don't take no for an answer very well. Sometimes no's are real hard no's, and we understand that. And oftentimes a very soft no can turn into a yes later in the process. So it will be a very proactive approach. Sometimes you'll have a candidate or two, a potential candidate or two that know us very well and respect us, and they'll see this opportunity and they'll say, okay, tell me what you know about it. Like, tell me everything. So, but most of it will be a very proactive outreach.
Lori, with the potential of a very small pool of applicants and the nuances that you discussed, what's the potential for diversity in a pool like this?
The potential is outstanding. I think that's one of the things that we, as a hallmark of our firm, and if you were in our offices, listening to our offices and meetings that we have every week, that's a conversation that we have every week. And we're going to ask you to challenge us on that. I would say to you, as we go out into the country and try to recruit candidates, it's important for us to ensure that there's a diversity of that pool. There's some outstanding individuals that are there, and we just got to go out and try to recruit them and sell them in this opportunity.
Lori, in addition to what Governor Kitson said, besides scale, I think UCF has a certain trajectory, a certain way that we're moving forward. Do you think that anyone we're looking at will necessarily have their own way of doing things? I mean, will this reduce the pool further if we have certain parameters we've outlined in our video, for instance?
I think that's a great question. And what I would say to you is you look at candidates today, the best candidates, the really top level candidates are not looking at a position that is to maintain. They don't want to be a part of an institution that's in maintenance mode. They want to be a part of an institution that has a forward trajectory. So that, to me, is your opportunity from that perspective. Will this person have vision? Yes. Will this person take your ideas and maybe expound on things in those? Absolutely. If you were to tell the best candidates this is everything you have to do on every given day, they're not coming here. They want to be a part of something that they can move the needle, and you have that. But you also have a trajectory that's been really on the rise for a long time, right? And you've got some exciting things that are happening, and the videos and things that we've been seeing, they're great, right? They're outstanding, and they're showing that positive trajectory. Again, the best candidates, that's what you sell, right? So when we go out into the market, we're not really selling the nuts and bolts of everything here. We're selling the vision of what the future looks like and what the opportunity that this person will have from that perspective.
Lori, I have a question. You talked about the narrow pool of candidates, and I'm curious on the flip side of that. We have an incredible opportunity to lure a top candidate, but are there other institutions that are out there right now at the same time as us who may be perceived as a better opportunity, and what is our competition in that regard?
Yeah, at any given time, there's going to be probably 20 to 25 searches going on, some at institutions of smaller size and scope, and others that are larger from that perspective. I think as you look at who you are, you have a special niche in that. And I think right now, right today, tomorrow, that could be totally different from that perspective. If you look at University of Louisville is in a presidential search right now. University of Utah is in a presidential search. There's multiple presidential searches going on right at this very moment. And as you kind of look at the pools of candidates, there's a lot of searches that have just completed as well. So as you look at that, there's a number that have just finished from that perspective. I don't think you're at any disadvantage or advantage from a timing perspective. I think this is a tough recruiting regardless of when you start the search, quite frankly. But right now, yeah, there's a market out there from that perspective. But I would also say to you, you're not looking for the candidate, in my opinion, that is looking at 10 different searches as well, because you're a unique opportunity from that perspective. To your point, there's unique things that are happening here that we really want those pieces to entice the candidate to want to be here, not just looking for a job.
Right. And to that point, are we looking at both traditional and non-traditional candidates for this position in light of the uniqueness of it?
My recommendation, and I've seen, the comments that you all had in your earlier meeting about things you're looking for in candidates and things, is to always keep that search open, very broad-based from that perspective at the beginning of a search. You'll start to narrow that down when you see the totality of the pool of candidates from that perspective. So as the position description is being formed and finalized over the next couple of days, I think you're in a position, quite frankly, where you leave a lot of things. I'm a big believer in the word preferred because you can see what's really required when you start to see the quality of that pool of candidates. But that's really your decision. I think one of the things that's most important for us to leave here with you all today is that we're just a vehicle of you as a committee. So, we're here to really help you determine what you want, not to tell you what you want in candidates, but to listen to you and then to go out and recruit those types of candidates. But the longer you can stay open, the better, in our opinion.
At our first meeting, Chair Marchena, within the context, obviously, of wanting the best possible candidate, also laid out a pretty aggressive timeline. Are you comfortable with that timeline?
I am comfortable with that timeline, and in respect to him, he was very adamant, and as well as your committee chair, to say to me, tell me if that is viable from that perspective. And we're not shy people, so if it wasn't viable, we would have said this is something we can't do from that perspective. But I honestly believe in the market that we're working in right now, the faster you can do a search, the better. It does not mean that you aren't thorough. It doesn't mean you don't take aggressive recruiting. It doesn't mean you don't do the right background. It doesn't mean that candidates don't come to campus and visit with the constituency groups and you gain feedback. All of that still takes place, but candidates very quickly will rule themselves in and out, right? So it doesn't take them months at a time to make a decision as to, and this is kind of what we do all day, every day. So the good news is you get to kind of go back to your day job, but we'll start making these phone calls and being aggressive. But I'm very comfortable with the timing. Now, we'll work on the dates and all those types of things in the coming weeks and months, but I think the timing is actually what's best for you as a university right now from a pool candidate perspective. And I would have said otherwise if I really didn't think so.
Thank you.
Lori, I'm sorry.
In biology, we consider a small pool to be anything less than like 150 candidates, which is mind-numbing.
Yes.
But I don't really have my head wrapped around what a small pool is. So could you kind of give me a ballpark so I can plan my life?
Yeah, I can. It will not be 150. I can assure you of that from that perspective. I always tell committees, if you can get somewhere between 6 to 10 really quality candidates in a presidential search, you've hit a home run from that perspective. Now, that doesn't mean the totality of the pool, right? So oftentimes we're not exactly sure how many people will respond to an ad. That number can really go up or down, just depends on the search, it depends on the time, those types of things. And so, but from a quality perspective, we're really looking at that 6 to 10. It could be a little higher. We won't know until we're in the market, but I can assure you there won't be 150 applicants for the position.
So related to that, so I know you're not involved in the selection process, of course, but how much are you involved in vetting the applicants and making sure that we get those that align more with the expectations that we have?
Sure.
And the criteria that we have established.
Sure. Let me talk a little bit about process, and I'm going to get to your question, I promise, from that perspective, but I think this is a good segue into process and how it flows from that perspective. So obviously you're going to have a marketing plan that you're going to talk about in a little while, and you're going to advertise, and you're going to do some really, quite frankly, creative things, in my opinion, to really out there, to put the name UCF, continue to have it out there, because it's out there. You all know that now. I know that right now, which is awesome timing for a search. But so the process will be that, and then we'll go out and do exactly what we just talked about, aggressive recruiting. We'll send some emails to your campus. We'll ask you as constituency, talk to your constituency groups about nominations and recommendations. That's as simple as, calling me and saying, hey, call this person. It doesn't have to be someone you've known forever. It can be someone you saw at a national conference and thought was really awesome and could be a great potential candidate, and we'll make that phone call. We'll be out there very proactively. Throughout the process, we will have opportunities to give you as committee members feedback on what we're hearing in the market, what the quantity looks like, what the quality looks like. Again, oftentimes, and I'm sure this won't be any different, some of your better candidates will start to develop towards the end of that process. I know you're going to have a listening session. I think that's going to be talked about with Grant a little later to really continue to talk about what you're looking for and what those opportunities and challenges are. I think that's very important, and I'm excited you guys are doing that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get to a point where we really feel like we have a quality pool of candidates, right? And then you all as committee members are going to have access to everything A to Z. So anyone who submits their materials, you will have access to. We will also have conversations, when these update calls that we have with you about the quality of the pool. And you will see very quickly what that defining line looks like, right? And then there's the process of vetting. And that's honestly what keeps me up at night. We're in a business of people. And so we need to make sure that the people that you all are interviewing and seeing are who they say they are. And that is not often an easy task for us. And so we spend a great deal of time doing that. I always have one caveat, and I will say it to you, and I'll say it many times. I can share everything about a candidate with you, but I can't make you believe it, and I can't make you listen to it. And again, it goes back to the advice that we are here to help you facilitate it, but we're not involved in the selection. And this is your search, not our search, right? All we want to do is try to advise you to help you make some of those decisions. I think what's important in the process of vetting candidates is that we're constantly on a national stage talking to candidates, right? So we are talking to individuals that aren't candidates in searches. We're talking to provosts on campus about who their best leaders are every day, right? So that's what we're doing every day to try to determine who are those best leaders on a national basis, so that when this opportunity presents itself, we're ready. We know some of those things, right? We know who's doing really well on a campus and maybe who's not doing so well on a campus from that perspective. So we're going to do extensive background checks on candidates, and that's done at various stages in the search process, right? So that's done very early on. We do, significant reviews to see if there's anything in the media that is controversial. We don't make judgments on it. We provide it to you so you can make judgments on it, because again, that's your role on this committee. Then what we'll also do as the process unfolds is we do credit and background checks and criminal checks and those types of things, and we confirm all degrees. We do extensive referencing. We're calling those individuals who are on their reference list, but we're also talking to national thought leaders to determine who those best candidates are. And so I think that's important. And we'll provide that feedback to you. So as a committee, there will come a point where you as a committee will come back into this room most likely, and you'll discuss the pool of candidates, and you'll make a decision as to who those candidates are that you would like to invite for that first round of interviews. And we typically say 8 more or less. That you would bring in at that stage in the process. And so again, that will be your decision as to who you bring in. We'll then facilitate that process for you of getting those candidates here over a 2-day period of time. One of the things I will ask of you all is flexibility throughout this process, because we're going to go out into this world and try to navigate and find the best candidates, but oftentimes we need the committee to be flexible from that perspective. And so you'll spend an hour and a half with probably 8 candidates or so. You'll interview those, and then you'll narrow that group down to probably 4 more or less that you'll bring back to campus to visit all the different constituency groups here as well. And then obviously the candidates will be interviewed by the Board of Trustees. They'll make a decision, and then it'll go to the Board of Governors from that perspective. But we will help you throughout this process in providing as much information as we can, and then it's your decision to take that information and make those choices.
Since we will see all of the applicant materials, will we have a indicator of those that directly were recruited by your organization or responded through the other recruitment?
Typically, we don't differentiate them from that perspective, because what's most important for you all to know is we don't have a vote. And so oftentimes if we were to place it on, to say these are the 10 that we recruited and these are not, then in essence we have voted in some way. And we want you all to be able to look at the totality of the pool and make those choices, because that really is important to us from that perspective. But oftentimes you'll be able to determine who those individuals are that we recruited and those that maybe came directly from an ad or self-identified themselves.
So aside from my role on the committee, how do you plan to involve the student body in your processes?
Absolutely. One of the first parts is when we reach out to all the constituency groups on campus to ask for recommendations and nominations, we'll ensure that goes to students as well, student leadership as well as students across the campus. I can tell you that we have had someone nominated from almost every single constituency group, including a student, that called another student on another campus, and they said, I have the most amazing candidate person on our campus. They nominated them to us, and ultimately that was one of the final candidates. So students can actively take a role in that. They have smart colleagues as well, so faculty, staff, and students will be actively engaged, as well as the community and the external community in that process. Then when this group narrows that group down to probably 4 more or less candidates, they'll come back to campus. And one part of that obviously will be meeting with students, representatives, and that's a critically important piece. And there'll be feedback mechanisms, and we'll talk a lot about the logistics of every step on some of our later calls, but there'll be feedback opportunities for the students to engage in that as well. So we want you to engage on the front end, and we want you to engage on the back end as well.
The intangible chemistry that you mentioned earlier, how do you do that? Is it face-to-face, or are you looking at parameters?
Yeah, what we try to do from that perspective, because that is an art, not a science, right, from that perspective, is that we're going to rely on you a great deal as well. So when you have those first round of interviews, a lot of times you're going to spend time with candidates and you'll get a feel whether or not they're the right person for the institution. But we also will spend time with you. We have been on your campus before. We think this is a tremendous place to be, but we also know that you've got to have some certain skill sets from creativity and passion and excitement and willing to kind of do things that maybe at other campuses you might not be willing to do, all positive things from that perspective. And so we learn that through multiple phone calls with candidates, conversations. Oftentimes we will, go to their campus, or they'll be coming through Atlanta. We're in an easy place from that perspective that lots of people come through, and we'll sit down and have those conversations. That's oftentimes how you recruit the best candidates, right, is through really just trying to get to know them and really trying to let them get to know you through that vehicle. I will tell you, these candidates potentially will make a phone call to one of you. They'll try to determine their own fit from that perspective. They'll know you're on the search committee. They will have colleagues that are here on your campus. They'll make those kind of phone calls, and they'll come back to us and say, this is what I learned from that perspective. So there's a lot of that piece. One of the most important pieces is, as we talk to national leaders, they tell us about people, right? People often tell you about themselves in a different way than people outside talk about them. And so we can determine some of those leadership traits and leadership skills based on those conversations as well. But that really is the hard part. For a search consultant, the easy part is finding a pretty CV. The hard part is finding the right person at the right time. Yes, sir.
Just real quick, in many respects, this is a traditional search to some extent. On the other hand, when you get, like Sydney was talking about, scale and size and complexity, that's a somewhat unique animal in this, and will require a different place to go look for that. And you may or may not find that on a campus. Where else and what other parts of your practice would you use to look for that person that could look at that scale but still have the academic cred that we'll be looking for?
Sure, absolutely. And so there's various ways as you look to build a pool that may not all come from sitting on a campus today, right? So as you look at that pool, that in itself, you can go to that very quickly, determine who those individuals. We'll call 500 plus people and very early, and that number will continue to grow throughout the process from that standpoint. And then what you can do is look at other opportunities to find individuals. Some institutions obviously have gone with leaders that have a corporate background, but they also have a higher education bent to them. We call it a hybrid type candidate. So that maybe comes from nonprofit. So they're coming from the nonprofit world, running a large nonprofit right now, and a large think tank, but they have the academic credentials that would garner respect on campus. That is what we do also. A lot of times I will tell you, when a candidate comes from I'll use quotation, non-traditional, right, not coming directly off a campus, typically there's some tie to the region, there's a tie to the city, there's a tie to the state or the institution. So oftentimes as you can look at alums, you can look at leaders who have been actively engaged on the campus, from advisory boards, those other types of things. And so we have our practice do that as well. Because we heard, that as we look at this, just to keep it broad on the front end, I would tell you that the vast majority of your candidates will come from leading an academic enterprise. But as we go through the market, we'll be proactive on all accounts.
Laurie, Rick's question is excellent. How unusual is it to have experience in both as a business leader and to have academic experience?
It's not common. It's not standard operating procedure from that standpoint, but you do see it in the nonprofit world. You do see it as it relates to research and development. So if you look at some of the large, we always kind of say, as you look at leaders that maybe aren't sitting on a campus today, how do you go about and find those individuals? And so one of the areas that we studied for some time was looking at individuals that were from regulated industries. And so as you look at regulated industries, they don't necessarily have the same dynamics that they have to work through that you would if you're selling a widget from that perspective. And so that was a niche that we kind of went to. And you could find a lot of individuals who are leading large institutes, who are leading large research and development institutes that have huge scale and scope to them, but they have academic credentials as well. So they started their career on the university side, and then they moved into that from that perspective. You see a little bit of that in agriculture, so as you look at agriculture leaders across the country, a lot of those individuals will have academic credentials as well, and they've gone on. You can look at individuals that are at large institutes and large research organizations is where you see that. There are also individuals, and some of it's hit and miss from that perspective, that have strong business ties, but also have strong, there's a lot of individuals with a terminal degree of a JD. And so you'll see individuals that have that as well, that may not come with a PhD. That's about heavy lifting, rolling up your sleeves and really just kind of diving in and seeing who those people are.
Sorry, one last thing. One of the things that I hope, and I know Grant and his team have done a great job on this, I heard a lot saying, well, we want to get somebody as good as, Harvard, or we want to get somebody as good as the University of Florida. We really don't. We're something different. I think we're delighted that there is a University of Florida here. They are our flagship university in the state. That's not us. We're different, and we are, I would describe it as a 21st century metropolitan university, and that's going to be something in and of itself over time. Making sure that the candidates that you're talking to understand that, and that we're not holding them to a metric of becoming a Harvard or a University of Iowa or whatever, that this is different, this is a unique opportunity, is going to be a nuance that's going to be really important, I think, in your search. So as you do that, I just encourage you to keep that in mind, because that to me is a compelling differentiator for us.
There's no question about that. And what I would also say to you as a committee is to consider exactly what you said as you're looking at the pool of candidates. And so oftentimes when you start to look at a pool of candidates, you begin to think, okay, I want someone, and you recognize certain institutions as world-class, right? So you recognize Harvard as world-class. And when you see maybe an institution that you don't...
Their endowment is certainly world-class.
Yes, no question. But if you see a candidate at an institution where you think to yourself, it's not a natural known world class, right? There's oftentimes world class things being done there, and there's institutions across this country that are doing some very innovative, amazing things. They may just not have the same public profile as others. So I totally agree with you, and that's the nuance that we have to find as we recruit candidates, because every institution is very different from that perspective. This one is. There's no question about what this one is and what it is not from that perspective. And so I would challenge you all to do that as well as you start to look at the people. One of the things that I think search committees do wrong, there's two things that I think search committees, when they start, they do wrong, and that is they rule candidates out too quickly, right? So they look at paper and they rule them out too fast, and they don't bring them in to spend an hour and a half. Oftentimes the candidate that you think is the best at that meeting where you select the candidates is not the best when they walk in the room, and the candidate that maybe was the flyer candidate rises up to be outstanding. And so I think that's important. The second goes about as it relates to background information, and that's, if it's there, and pay attention to that as you go forward.
Well, you think just to summarize, given our size and scope and a contrite desire to move expeditiously, we're gonna be facing pretty robust interest in the role, even though there are other competing roles.
I strongly believe so, yes, sir.
But the fact also of our intent of purpose in moving appropriately, hastily, will be a service to us in terms of showing our serious intent to be moving expeditiously should help us.
I think it will be a positive to the candidates.
So, Lori, we're where we are today because of innovation. We have this history of innovation. So how do you identify innovation as you're looking at candidates and their, not only their experience, but what they're capable of?
And a lot of that has to come not only with looking at what they've done, right, what they've accomplished. I will often tell you that when we look at candidates, we look at where they started and then where they went, right? Because oftentimes people will put a lot of great things, but they already started way over here. So they moved the needle, but they were at such a phenomenal place, right? It really wasn't hard to move the needle. So sometimes you look at where they started and where they moved from that perspective, and that shows you innovation. That shows you what did they do with limited resources, with less name brand, all these types of things from that perspective. So that helps. That's one of the things that we're constantly talking to thought leaders across this country about. Who are the innovators? And that's one of the questions that we constantly ask. Who are the people who are doing stuff that nobody else is doing from that perspective? Because there's a lot of great people at a lot of wonderful universities that are relatively and can be steady Eddie, right? It just is we're continuing to keep the trains running on time, and it's really great. There's no negative to that. But oftentimes there are those individuals who are really doing doing something special, right? And they're moving the needle. And those are the things that are the hardest to identify, right? You can look at their trajectory, you can look at the things they've accomplished, but also you got to talk to people. And oftentimes that's talking to people, not only people within their division, so if they're the provost, people who are working in the provost office, but you really can get that by talking to people that are in communications and marketing, people who may be in athletics, who are seeing the innovative things here, faculty senate person that is really involved in that from that perspective. So that's what it takes. It takes a lot of conversations. It takes a leap of faith sometimes and seeing it when it comes through at the airport interview, right? You see all these pieces and then you need to spend an hour and a half with them to see if they really have it from that perspective. So we'll do everything we can to find that who's that person who's cutting edge. Oftentimes that person that you're talking about, their CV doesn't always look as good. And their CV isn't as, straight up and down path that you would normally see from that perspective. And that goes back to the comment from you and from my challenging you as a committee to look broader than that, right? Look at what they've done, but look broader than the career trajectory, the institutions, those types of things. Look for that special person.
Lori, maybe jumping ahead, but are we going to be discussing timeline today when we might actually be looking at some of these candidates, when you expect individuals to actually start contacting you? Is that something we're reviewing today?
I think what we're really saying with the strong counsel of Parker is this is going to really get out in full force, the promoting of the role and its description by about tomorrow. But let's see how we do. Well, I mean, we're having to move rapidly and see how we do in terms of collecting a robust pool of qualified folks and see how that goes.
We want to get into the market.
Maybe let that drive the schedule.
We want to get into the market and see what the market's telling us and see what the candidates are looking at from that perspective. Then we're going to come back to you in rapid pace and say, here's what we're thinking, here's where we are. If things are looking really good from that perspective, the interest is great. Let's put some dates on a calendar from that perspective.
Laura, do you think we've done a good job of kind of defining what the expectations are for this next president and kind of what success for that president would mean? So we're talking about innovation or academic achievement, research, metrics, whatever those things are. Have we done a good job of that so that president, whoever that is, would know specifically what it is they have to achieve in order to be successful here at this university?
Absolutely. And one of the things I would commend the board on, quite frankly, is having those conversations all the time, right? What's important here? You don't often see that on other campuses, and then a search happens and you start having those conversations. So the fact that the board and this campus has been having those conversations over time, to me, was a huge draw. I was very impressed with that. And when Grant told me, I was like, that's amazing from that perspective, because you kind of know what you want and who you're looking for from that. Now, obviously, their weeds is in the middle somewhere, right? So you have these wonderful metrics, but how are you going to get there? And those are conversations that you have to have from that perspective. But I think you've laid out what you're looking for and what the opportunity is. Now what we have to do is to start talking to the candidates. Now I'll be the first to tell you that candidates are going to ask for more. And so as soon as I have that conversation with them, they're going to say, well, I need this, this, and this. And then I'm going to instantly go to your chair and say, I need this, this, and this, because we have a candidate who's interested in this. And so we'll continue to provide them. But right now I feel like you're in a very good place to get this search rolling.
Lori, I know that compensation will be defined later more specifically, but what is the role of compensation in ensuring that we are positioned to attract the best candidates out there?
Anyone who says it's not about money, it's always about money. And so compensation will be a driver. There's no question about that. I think it was the first conversation that I had was to tell me what those are. Our responsibility in this is to make sure that you can recruit candidates that are recruitable. And what we don't want you to do is to fall in love with a candidate that you can't have because of compensation from that perspective. So we'll know very early on in the process, in enough time to be able to say, okay, here's what it is. One of the the things that's important to us in our practice is that we never bill on compensation. We bill on a set fee at the beginning, because I never want it to look like in public education we're trying to ratchet up compensation. And so once you give us that number, we'll work in that number, in that range. But compensation will matter. I think you're, based on the past president, you're in a very good place where that will be. But once we get those final kind of dynamics, we'll discuss those with candidates. We'll know the issues that they see from that perspective, because there's some positions that are out there and great people who are making extraordinary compensation in higher education right now, and they're not motivated. They're happy where they are, and they're being compensated very well, and they stay from that perspective. So it will matter, and we'll pay attention to that.
How much does the president that we select get to pick? Does he get to pick and bring in, just like a football team, does he get to bring in all the assistant coaches and all that sort of thing as vice presidents, or is it a one-off? We pick a president.
Yeah, when you look at presidential transitions, I know you have a presidential transition team as well, and I think that'll be in part what presidents want to know, potential presidents, what they want to know when they start a search is, do I have flexibility, right? I've never had one say to me, no, I want to get rid of everybody, right? I want to start from scratch like they do in athletics. They've never said that to me, but they've always wanted to say, do I have flexibility to build a team if necessary, right? Because as you look at the positions there, they're going to have weaknesses, and they want to make sure that the people they surround themselves with don't have those same weaknesses. You're never going to find the perfect candidate that has everything that you need. So that's what they're looking for from that perspective. We've seen over the last several years, they look, and oftentimes if you're looking at the transitions right now, there may be, they look at development officers typically, they sometimes look at provost, but it's never a carte blanche, I want to come in and do that. They oftentimes will wait and see if there's a good fit and chemistry there, and they make no move from that perspective. Often, I've seen that many a time. They just want to know there's flexibility if the pieces aren't there.
Anything else? Lori, thank you.
Thank you.
And Portia, we're
We look
looking forward
to
to
it.
great success with your team, and deeply appreciate you spending the time with us today, describing Parker, your history, and our process. Sounds like we have a lot to look forward to, and great robust candidate list coming forward. Okay, on the building on some questions we've had, even in that small forum, we have looked at a pretty robust listening process across the campus and the community. I'm going to ask Grant to make a few comments about that. It's really got three main phases. One, kicking off fairly quickly, is really to get involved with taking a poll across the university campus through our presidential website of asking key questions of everyone who has an interest in this, from students, staff, the community, by email, if they're so inclined to provide inputs. Secondly, we're looking at a process of meetings, open forums in mid-January. Grant will discuss in some depth, inviting everyone from all of our locations and the community to come in person, and we'll take some time from us to be voluntarily involved in the middle of that process, hopefully doing the listening. And then finally, Co-Chair C and I have looked to each presidential staff, direct report, and dean for more one-on-one feedback of how they see this process moving forward, and all the key criteria and the success metrics for the university and things that will impact this decision. So we've got a pretty good outline of listening that Grant will go ahead and lay out for us at this time.
Chairman Walsh, you did a great job of outlining it right there. I don't really have a whole lot to add, other than we've worked with you and your leadership of really wanting to make this an inclusive process and get feedback from everywhere we can get feedback. We've worked with Lori and Parker about what are some of the best practices for how to do that. What we've discussed and what Chairman Walsh wants to do is not just have one open forum, but we're looking at having 4 in early January. We've targeted January 10th and 11th. Classes start on the 8th, so that would be right when students and faculty and staff come back. January 10th could potentially one forum be with an actual search committee meeting and an update from Lori, either at Fairwinds where we'd host it or maybe in this room. The second would be in the student union in the afternoon. We also want to get off this campus and do things and engage the community. So we've reached out to the Center for Emerging Media in downtown Orlando. that would look like we do that January 11th in the morning and give not just our students and faculty at our 2 downtown locations the opportunity to participate, but invite all of the downtown community to come and participate at that meeting. And then in the afternoon on the 11th, we would go to the College of Medicine, and that would give the med school, Burnett research folks there, and the Lake Nona, our important partners at Lake Nona, all those people the opportunity to come in and talk about what's important to them in this search. And excuse me, we'd really want to have this guided by 3 questions. And working with Lori and Portia, the 3 questions would be, what will be the challenges facing UCF over the next several years? What kind of leader can meet those challenges? And then why should someone want to be president of UCF? Scott and I were saying the opportunity to work with you and me. That's probably the most popular answer. But maybe there'll be some others. But those are the type of questions, and then we'd give the folks the opportunity to identify themselves as student, faculty, staff, alumni, or community. Those would be our in-person opportunities. This week, we expect to launch an online survey of those exact same 3 open-ended questions and the identifiers, and share it aggressively with students, faculty, staff, and the community and our alumni to really be proactive and aggressive about seeking out that input. And what we do with that input is we will make it very public. We'll place it on the Presidential Search website for all of you to see, and for anybody in the community who would want to see, to be able to kind of go through and see, are there keywords, are there key phrases or ideas or thoughts that jump out that would inform this committee about how it wants to do its job. And we would have that probably as we go, but certainly complete shortly thereafter, after the 11th. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the listening tour.
I don't have a question, Grant, but I would just request that the sooner we can tie down dates, the better. Just we can get we have a lot of different events going on. The sooner we can commit to dates, the better.
I
for all
defer to Chair Walsh, but I think the 10th and the 11th are pretty much locked in.
Grant, I understood the 11th. I'm not sure I was clear about the 10th. What are we doing on the 10th?
We probably have a search committee meeting in the morning at Fairwinds, like the first one we had, where Parker, I think, if you're available and there's news to share, would come and share news and updates. And then that would be our first open forum where we'd invite anybody who wants to come. We'd have the full committee there to come and give public comment. Later in the day, to accommodate different schedules, different obligations, students, faculty, staff we'd have something in the afternoon at the Student Union. And we would be working with this committee. At those other forums, I don't think we need the entire committee. We'd probably be looking for groups of 4 to 5 who would be available to come and participate. And the same for the 2 on the January 11th.
Yeah, the goal, hopefully everyone would like to come, but allowing for the fact that we've got 4 of the same meeting, that you all may not be able to augment the time for all 4, but at least we'd have a hopefully pretty full group of us being able to attend.
And I expect this week we'd start sending out those kind of invocations and soliciting when you'd be available.
Okay, if no further questions, there's another topic Grant has to cover with us. We had gone through in our last meeting the fact that just briefly touched on, the Board of Governors provides us in the policy of selecting a new president that we submit for a vote. We actually have an actionable item today, and that is to vote on the marketing plan that we go ahead and submit for guiding the process and the promotion of the process. Grant has put that together, and I'd like him to summarize it.
Yes, we said at the first meeting we're going to be aggressive of how we promote the search, not just to attract the best candidates, but to tell the UCF story in a way we haven't had the chance to do in 26 years. So in your packet, you have a 1-page overview of how we're seeking our next visionary leader. We're looking at this really in 3 places, in 3 ways. Want that to be a positive story about what a great opportunity this is. And the third is the category we like our story best when we tell it ourselves. And so what are we doing with our website? What are we doing with our social media channels to make sure that this job is the most attractive job in the country for anybody who wants to be here? So all of that combined, we think, will be a very aggressive marketing campaign that will get us through the announcement of a new president.
So with that, we've all had a chance to look at it. Questions?
We are getting some very positive exposure at this time. Are we piggybacking on that as well?
Yes, that's winning is in the marketing plan. Yes, winning football games is in the marketing plan. But I mean, it sounds silly, but even putting the Hit Squad sticker on the back of the helmets tells the story of we're going through a transition and we have a leadership change, and so we'll see that at the Peach Bowl.
Lori, have you guys weighed in on this? You guys been a part of that?
Yes, we have. I will tell you that kind of the creativity that Grant's team is showing in this, I think, is absolutely refreshing, to be honest with you. And we talked about the fact that aggressive recruiting matters, but the types of things that he's doing, I think the website, there's some excitement around these videos. Oftentimes in searches, those are very static things. You know, it's just here it is. So we're excited. We told him earlier today that the creativity was kind of inspiring to us from that perspective. But no, I think the right things are being done.
Do we have entertain a motion at this point to approve the marketing plan?
Second.
And open for further discussion, questions about it?
I just wondered, Grant, if this is a phased campaign or are you flooding the market all at one time?
That's a great question. The first ads will appear in the Chronicle on the 15th. And so it'll be the hard push will be probably from December 15th up through at least the end of January, early February. And I think based on Lori's guidance, you know, what else do we need to do? But this is also separate from the presidential transition activities that we're working on. So we'll have an aggressive marketing plan for that too. So really this is just the start of the search. And as we move forward over the next couple months and really over the next 18 months, we'll have a lot of opportunities to tell the UCF story.
I have one question, and this marketing plan looks great, Grant. One thing that's standing out to me is Florida Trend being a non-academic publication, and are there others, going back to the comments that some of our colleagues have mentioned about non-traditional candidacies and that hybrid candidate that Lori was talking about, are there other publications like Florida Trend or maybe on a more national scale that will be targeted towards a hybrid type of candidate?
We're investigating that. That's a great question. The Florida Trend spot is really timed for the start of the session coming up, and making sure the leadership around Florida knows that this is a big deal. Right. We looked at, for instance, New York Times, what that would cost. A full-page ad in the New York Times, one time is $175,000. So I don't think we're going to be doing that. But we're looking at regional opportunities, or could we just do targeted, like New York Times?
I see a donor opportunity here.
I like that. I like that. I like that. If Mike Morseberger is listening or watching, we'll be in touch. Mm-hmm.
How confident are you on the budget?
Oh, I'm very confident. I think this is what it takes, and if we go through this and we realize that we need more, I'll ask for more. But just right now, late last week, part of the survey was going to be about a $10,000 external purchase, but we realized we could do it in-house ourselves. So that's a $10,000 savings that we can put towards something else.
So you'll be open to other media as it comes along, other opportunities you mentioned, New York Times or others look at that could possibly, if they're value adding, we could consider to add.
Oh, absolutely.
In the way of promoting the university and the position.
We're going to look at every opportunity there is. As soon as, and this is the truth, as soon as we know who the broadcast team for the Peach Bowl is going to be, we're going to pitch them two things. We're going to pitch them that UCF is the #1 public university for 4 straight years in graduation success rates, and you have an outgoing president who's seen it all, and you ought to talk to him and see what he has to say about the state of college athletics. And that's another opportunity to tell this type of story.
So this isn't, it's a pretty good guide at this point. It's not the finite, it's flexible to be
absolutely
added to.
Yes.
Not necessarily for a presidential search, but I wonder if you found any previous success with recruitment at national convenings, conferences, and meetings of individuals who might fit the profile.
that would probably be, what does Dr. say, the first law of academic administration, if it's worth doing, it's worth delegating? That might be a great question for Lori to answer on that one.
Oftentimes, you can find conferences where a lot of people are congregating together, and you can use that as an opportunity to recruit. You know, we don't put a desk out with a sign or anything that, well, we set up individual meetings from that perspective to try to recruit from that. I don't think from an advertising purpose, it's probably the best way to do that, but it's a one-off when we see that there's a group of people that we're trying to recruit together.
Lori, while you're up there, one more question. I was going to ask this earlier. Something you said earlier stuck with me, which is the mistakes that committees make. We haven't done this in a very long time. Could you help us try not to make those mistakes by having some best practices? We haven't been exposed to a lot of these.
Absolutely, and that's what I hope to be able to do throughout this process. And we've talked to Scott and Grant several times about these are things that work, and here's some things that maybe don't work from that perspective, and you decide. So we'll absolutely do that. The fact that you have a transition team already working is tremendous. That's a thing that typically will happen on a university campus is you spend all this effort on a search, and then you forget the transition piece, and then the search doesn't go as well as you would have thought from that perspective. So absolutely, we'll do it, and we'll give you the advice that we have from other searches. But right now, I think there was a couple of questions about, did I look at that? Things are on point. There is a very proactive, which is refreshing, very proactive as it relates to what are you thinking about? What's the right things to do? How do we ensure we get the best candidates? Now, the heavy lifting is out there making those phone calls. I mean, that's where it's all going to come down. But the fact that you can have some of these publications and creative ways to do it for an announcement purpose, it's really just about so that when we make that phone call, when you all are nominating people and thinking about people, that they think, God, I just saw a really cool ad. I just saw something. I just saw them on TV. I just had this conversation. And then we're having a conversation again, calling back saying, well, let me tell you the real story of what's going on there, right? You saw an ad. You see that media presence. You asked about the football. That's going to be a tremendous time. This is a great time to be out there because people are talking about UCF. And all we're going to do is change the narrative from athletics until, let me tell you what they've been doing in academics all this time as well. And that's a tremendous opportunity to be able to have that.
If there are no further questions, could I request a vote on the marketing plan submitted? Those in favor?
Aye.
Vote
Aye.
Any opposed? Like sign. With that, the motion to approve the marketing plan is approved. Thank you, Grant. We did, just maybe one thing as a follow, we didn't have on the agenda, but Scott, just wanted to ask overall we voted to approve a compensation study in our last meeting. Things are moving ahead with the firm and the work, and
they are. We actually identified 2 firms.
Great. So selected within a few days, and then their work will be moving ahead rapidly. Great. Okay, we discussed next meeting then would be January 10th, concurrent with our first listening and public feedback session. The meeting will be followed by the listening session on that day, and then the next day, 2 more. So we'll have 2 on the 10th, 2 on the 11th. Grant and Laurie, we're all available for constant discussion. I think you'll be with us potentially in the meeting on the 10th, so we can get some early feedback how things are progressing and get into a little more depth of how we're doing. And so we've got those scheduled. Any other issues need to arise before us today? So with that, we'll adjourn. And happy holidays to all of you. And we're hoping for great success in our New Year's Day Peach Bowl in Atlanta. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.